Good afternoon, everybody. This is M. Krishna Prasad, Program Chair, Rata Bangalore, speaking from Bangalore. I welcome you all for one more episode of webinar from Bangalore. And this webinar is being conducted by Rata, that is Refrigeration and Air Condition Trades Association Limited. In short, we call this as Rata, R-A-T-A. Rata has the head office in Mumbai, and there are 13 chapters across India. And the total membership now is about 1,100. We belong to Rata Bengaluru. We have a membership of about 78 people, 78 members. And Rata across India, it is the organization of MSMEs in the line of refrigeration, air conditioning. We have traders, service providers, and contractors. All these people together make Rata a very strong organization. The purpose of Rata is getting together all the people in the trade, getting a link among the supplier and the consumer, trader and the service provider, and thereby creating an ease of doing business. Now, apart from this, linking the people in the line, Rata also license with the state government, with the central government, and the various government regulatory bodies like ESI, PF, weight and measures. So with every department, Rata license actually. So apart from all these things, Rata also conducts a lot of webinars, having get-togethers of the traders or of the members in a particular area. Maybe we have regular meetings in Bangalore to discuss the issues what is concerned to us. So likewise, we keep Rata creates a forum for the people in the line to ease their business, to get the knowledge of the business, and to solve their problem with the government agencies. So apart from this, Rata is also a knowledge house. Rata each forum this one. Rata totally has 13 chapters across India, and each chapter conducts one or two webinars every month. And these webinars may be in the line of refrigerants, compressors, ESI, PF, or whatever it is, which can help the traders and the members of Rata. So Rata is also a member of FKCC. Rata Bangalore is a member of FKCCI. Likewise, Rata Delhi is a member of ASOCHEM Delhi. Rata Mumbai is a member of Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce. So likewise, every chapter is a member of various trade bodies in the regional areas, and thereby Rata has an access to a very vast network of trade bodies, traders, MSMEs, manufacturers, government agencies, and everything actually. That is how Rata helps actually. Now Rata National, having its head office in Mumbai, is ably guided by its president, the national president, Mr. Ajit Panikkar, who also runs a company by name Pureblu Technologies Private Limited. Likewise, Rata Bangalore. As I told you, we are a 75 member strong association. We run the organization, and the president of the organization is Mr. Subramaniam, who is a consultant by profession, running his company Triple S for the last 18 years. The vice president is Mr. Mulinder Jain, who runs his own company, Shravan Refair Private Limited. So likewise, we have a team of members who run the organization at Bangalore also. So I welcome you all to a webinar which we are going to conduct today. We presume health is a very important aspect for any human being, and we are going to conduct a webinar on something connected to health. Now, the person who is going to conduct this is a veteran in the line, and then he is going to be introduced by one more stalwart of Bangalore. As I told you, that is none other than Mr. Muninder Jain, Begwani or Muninder Jain, who has his own company by name Shravan Refer, who is a dealer for Emerson, Danfoss, and many more companies. I welcome on stage Mr. Muninder Bengani to introduce the speaker of the day. Mr. Muninder,
Thank you,
please.
Prashant, for such
Yeah.
kind words. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Good afternoon to you all. It gives me great joy to introduce our family health care partner. We call we call Suresh Guruji too. So Suresh Guruji to you all. In my experience with him, he is selfless, approachable, and takes a holistic approach to health. That is mind, body, and soul. He is the founder of Smart Foundation, which has a vision to create a stress free world. He has dedicated his life to this cause with passion. He is committed to creating a healthy and peaceful world free of stress related problems. His work on yoga for health has been greatly appreciated by all. Indian Board of Alternative Medicine has recognized him as a registered medical practitioner. He is a practicing yogi since 1975, so almost 45 years. He has been studying, analyzing, experimenting, and reflecting on effects of yoga on health and how to use yoga productively for universal good. Since 1995, he has trained thousands of participants hailing from different walks of life. It is no $1 million secret that what and how we eat affects our all health. This is the fuel that drives us to achieve our ambition and daily goals. In today's session with Guruji about the golden food habits, we will see an immediate and actionable way to make change in our life, which will give us long-term results at no additional expenditure. So, without taking much of time, let's invite him with big smile and curious mind. Welcome, Guruji.
Namaskar. Good evening to all of you. In past two sessions uh, of this webinar, yogic food or the golden food habits, we have been discussing or no, we have been understanding about how different kind of food affects us. This time, we'll be seeing how the habits affect the food as well as ourselves. So I would request to put the slide. Can we have the slide, please? Yes. So as I said, we have been discussing about how different kind of food affects us. So let us have a quick recollection of what we spoke about. Now, first of all, if you go to the Western medicine, the Western thought of uh, line of thought about food, they are more concerned about the structure or molecular structure of the food. No, what is fat, protein, glucose or carbohydrates, fibers, vitamins, etc. They are more bothered about how these things metabolize and how it affects us. But when we come to the um, yogic perspective of the food, here we are more bothered about how the food affects us rather than what is the kind of food. No, there are certain food which helps us to make us more peaceful, and these are called as sattvic foods. Then there are other food which are a little aggressive, or it can cause a little bit of irritation in us. These are known as rajasic food. Then there are food, what we call as lazy food, or the food which requires so much of energy to digest that it makes us feel tired. These are known as tamasic food. Now, these are the guna or the character of the food. We have already discussed these. So, today I will be talking about how the food habit affects us rather than the food itself. Now, if you notice, we eat food for various reasons. Now, in the previous class, we discussed that food gives us energy. So, do we eat only to get energy from food? Or is there any other reason why we eat food? Actually, there are many other reasons. We eat as an entertainment. No, when we get bored, we eat. We eat because of stress. We eat because we are angry. We eat to give company to our friends. We eat um, because it is time to eat. Now, if you eat for all these wrong reasons, it is not going to help you or help your health. So we need to watch out what we eat and why we eat, along with how we eat. So let us have a look at some more points here. Now, the posture you use when you're eating, um, uh, how do you sit is very important. Definitely, you should not be lying down or standing up and eating. You need to be much more comfortable. You need to sit down and eat all the time. No, there may be certain very rare occasions or emergencies where you're forced to eat when you're standing, but that should not be a preferred mode of no preferred way of eating. You should always be seated, preferably on the ground. Little more about that later, but definitely not lying down or no standing up. Then, if you're eating out of stress, if you're eating in a hurry, that will also have effect on you. So you need to make sure that you have enough time to eat. You should set aside some time when you're eating. uh, the time should be used only for eating. You should not be multitasking, like watching TV or reading newspaper, or no the Western concept of having a family gathering around the dining table uh, is not something that is uh, what do you say, acceptable in yoga. As per yoga, when you're eating, you should be only eating. You should not be talking. You should not be watching. You should not be reading. You should not be doing anything else. Your full focus should be only on the food that you're eating. If you go around, you will get a whole myriad of advices. What you should do, what are the good habits. You should wash your food, you should wash your hands, you should drink water, you should chew your food. Good. No, all these are good advices, but then sometimes you need to take it with a pinch of salt, because along with the good advice you get a lot more advice. Some of it may be applicable to you, and some may not be applicable to you. So you'll have to be a little careful there. So be careful from where you take the advice about food. Like some, no, like I mentioned, it is ideal to sit down and eat, um, sit down on the floor and eat, because when you sit down, your spinal column, the pressure is on the lower part of the spinal column. There is a little bit of pressure on your stomach. It helps in making sure that you eat only how much you need to eat and you don't overeat. And no, the digestion process starts, and it starts little slowly, so that it helps you to you know focus on the food, eat, and not binge eat, no, not overeat. Then, of course, there are various advices, like you should eat more of vegetables, you should eat more of cereals, uh, more of proteins, you should eat less of fat. I'm not going to dispute those things here. Here, I'm going to talk about some of your habits, how it affects you, and how you go about eating. Now, like I said, ideally you should sit down, and preferably sit on the floor with the legs folded. That is the traditional way of eating in India. Due to various reasons, you may or may not be able to sit like this. That is okay. But you should definitely be seated. Even if you're seated on a chair, it's all right. If you're seated in a chair, make sure that you're comfortable. No, uh, food is something that should be consumed in a very comfortable manner. You should not be seated in an awkward posture where the focus is not on the food but somewhere else. So that should be avoided. Be comfortable, be seated, preferably on the ground. If not, on the chair is also okay. Now, uh, when you eat, you put the morsel in your mouth. I would like to uh, I would like to bring to your attention that you need to use all five senses. That is, when you're eating, first you need to see the food. No, the food is in front of you. Just have a look at it. Then you bring it closer. You can get the smell of the food. Then you put it in your mouth. You get the taste. That's the third sense. Then, when you start chewing it, you feel the texture of the food. That's the fourth sense. And the fifth sense is, as you start chewing the food, you can hear the crunchiness of the food. You need to use your ears as well. So you need to use all five senses and be fully 100% into the food that you're eating. Your mind should not be roaming around when you're eating. You should be fully into the food. The food itself can be like a meditation where you're 100% with the food. You should smell the food, you should taste the food, and be with the food fully. And one more important thing, when you put the food in your mouth, you need to chew it. Now, we have teeth in our mouth, right? Unlike certain other animals like monkeys, which can store the food in the neck, then regurgitate it, chew it, and swallow it later. Or you have like something like cow, which can swallow the food, regurgitate it, bring it back from the stomach, chew it, and swallow it again. Unfortunately, as a human being, we cannot do that. Once we swallow the food, it is gone inside. So before you swallow the food, you have to make sure that you chew your food very well. So what does it mean to say drink your solid? That means you chew your food so well that it becomes like water and you drink it, or it becomes a liquid and you drink it. Then what does it mean by eat your liquids? Now there is a tendency for people to take some liquids and pour it into the mouth. It sometimes doesn't even get into your tongue. It gets directly into your throat and goes into your stomach. Now, that's not the best way of drinking. If you want to get full energy, full benefit out of the food, especially the liquid food, water or juice, etc., then you need to do it little more slowly. You need to maybe just take it. Now, almost like eating, you should keep it in your mouth, allow the saliva to mix with the food, especially the liquid food. When you're chewing the food, the solid food, the saliva gets mixed up with it. But when it is liquid, if you just swallow it without allowing the saliva to mix with it, you don't get the full benefit, because saliva has certain enzymes which will help certain kind of food to digest. And if you don't get that enzyme mixed with the food, you will not be able to get the full benefit out of the food. Certain um, nutrition from the food will remain, um, you know you will not be able to assimilate that nutrition into your body if you don't allow the saliva to mix with the liquid food. In fact, my guru said, chew every morsel 64 times. No, I don't think it is practical to sit and count. No, put the food in your mouth and chew one, two, three. It may not be possible, but it is much simpler to, chew it enough to make it into a liquid form. That means the food has been chewed very well, and then swallow it. And as you notice, we have teeth only in our mouth. Once we swallow it, there is no possibility for us to bring the food back and chew it again. So we have different parts of our system. The mouth part is like a mixer grinder, where you crush the food and make it into powder or a liquid form, so that it becomes easy to digest it. Then you swallow it, it goes into your throat and it goes into your stomach. Now in stomach, what happens? In the stomach, the food starts getting mixed up with the other enzymes produced by different other organs like liver or pancreas. Those enzymes are released into the stomach. Now stomach is again like a mixie, where this enzymes and the food get mixed up well. Now for this to happen, you should have the right quantity of water, the solids and the liquids. If you have if you're not consumed enough water, it can result into acidity. If you have consumed too much of water, the acid in your stomach becomes very dilute, and again, you will not be able to digest the food properly. So this balance has to be correct. Now, for any chemical reaction to happen correctly, you need to make sure that the pH and the acidity balance, the temperature balance, everything is maintained properly. Only then you'll have the correct kind of chemical reaction. The, the digestion process of the food is nothing but a simple chemical reaction, or maybe not simple. It's a chemical reaction. It can be quite complicated, in fact. Um if you try to uh, get into the details. But in a simple format, what it does is it breaks down the food into the form of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, which can be absorbed by the body or assimilated by the body. To do that, the food needs to be first crushed and tasted nicely. Then it should be mixed with different acids and enzymes so that the chemical reaction can happen. And then it passes through the small intestine. In the small intestine, no, as it passes over a period, slowly this food gets digested, and different minerals and nutrition gets starts getting absorbed into the system, and finally it comes to the large intestine, where you know um, what is required is taken and what is not required is uh, expelled. So this is the process. So to make sure that you get the full benefit, you need to follow certain simple things. When you're sitting and eating, you should focus only on the food. You should not be watching TV. You should not be reading newspaper. You should not. You should keep the phone, your mobile phone, away. In fact, you should keep it as far away as possible when you're eating, because there is a tendency for you to, even if you are not answering the phone, to check your WhatsApp message or see what is happening somewhere. So to avoid the tendency, you should keep the phone away. Uh, you should not be eating on your desk if possible. You should come little away from your regular place of work and then eat, so that your focus gets shifted away from your work. When you're eating, you should be only eating, and you should not be thinking about your work. Now, when we talk about water, water is one more very important aspect. Now, as I said, if there is too much of water, the food does not get digested because the acids and enzymes get too diluted. If you don't drink enough water, again, it can result in constipation. The food can, no, there is not enough water for the food to mix with the different enzymes. It becomes too solid. It doesn't pass through our digestive system easily, and no, it forms lumps. So, how do you make sure that you get enough water? Our body constitutes of more than 60% water. There are different ways of saying, no? Some people say you should have 10 cups of 10 glasses or 10 cups of water. Now, how do you measure that? What do you mean by 10 cups? 10 cups could be, each cup could be 100 ml, it can be 50 ml, or it can be half a liter. So, what is the measure? So I will give you a simpler way or more accurate way of measuring how much water you need to have. Before that, let me tell you when you should have water as per yoga. What we say is you should have half the requirement of your water. Now, as per your body, you need certain amount of water. About half of it, you should consume it in empty stomach right in the morning, as soon as you wake up, before you have your breakfast. So that means when you wake up, the time between you wake up and the time before you have your breakfast, in between that time, you should consume uh, 50% of the water is um, that is required by your body. You can have it in a no. You can keep a couple of bottles of water and gulp it down in the morning. That's the only time when it's okay to drink water little fast, because you need to drink a lot of water, maybe 1.5 liters. So that is the time when you're drinking water to clean your system. So your entire system, no, your throat, mouth, uh, stomach, digestive system, the entire system can get cleaned up if you drink about 1.5 liter of water. That is why it is okay to drink plenty of water, and it's okay to drink it faster. But if you drink slowly, it is even more beneficial. Um, then you should drink about half a liter of water about half an hour before your meals. So suppose you're going to have your meals at 1 o'clock. So before 12:30, you should have half a liter of water. Similarly, suppose you're having your dinner at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. About half an hour before that, you should have about half a liter of water. In between, if you feel thirsty, um, you should not drink water. You should not gulp water. What you should do is take little water, put it in your mouth, allow the water to be there in your mouth for some time, and then slowly swallow it. No, don't gulp it down. Don't try to drink water very fast when you're thirsty, because the thirst is there in your throat or in your mouth and not in your stomach. So when you're thirsty, you need to drink water very, very slowly. You drink water, put it in your mouth, allow the water to mix with your saliva, and then slowly swallow it. If you're still thirsty, you can have little more, one more sip. Within 2 or 3 sips, your thirst will be taken care of. Sometimes, because of the climate, you may want to drink cold water, hot water. Um, Ideally, you should drink water at room temperature. Um, Water which is very hot or very cold can have its own effect. Sometimes it may be beneficial, sometimes it may not be so beneficial. So, uh, to to make sure that it is what you should say, um, it is ideal for different situations. It is best to have water at room temperature instead of having very hot or very cold water. Little this way, that way, little lukewarm, little cold, it is fine, but it should not be very cold, like ice water, because that can affect your stomach, it can affect your digestion. Similarly, having very hot water, it can uh, it can burn your stomach or your throat. Sometimes, if you try to drink too hot, so you should balance it out. Um, I would say you're the best judge to see how hot you would like to drink or how cold you would like to drink. But ideally, it should be room temperature. Can I have the slide, please? So, as you see, different parts of our body um, consist of so much of water. So, we are almost like made up of water more than all other matters. No, we have air, no Panchabhutas. We are made up of air, water, fire, earth, and space. Now, apart from space, the next most abundant stuff we are made up of is water. Then comes air, and solid stuff is the least, which will be a surprise for you. We thought that our body is solid, but no, we are made up of more air, more and water than solids. Many times people feel that can I substitute water with something else? Can I drink soda or can I drink a coffee tea? I'm not saying you should not drink those things. Okay, I spoke about it earlier. I will not go into those details. But those drinks cannot be a substitute for water. Water is water, and coffee is coffee. So, just by drinking coffee does not mean that you have consumed water. Although coffee again consists of plenty of water, but that is not to be counted when we calculate how much water you need to drink. Now, let me come to this basic top question about how much water I need to drink. In winter, you need to drink approximately 30 ml per kg of your weight. Suppose your weight is 70 kgs, 70 into 30, that is about 2000 odd ml, which is about 2 liters of water. So in winter, you may need about 2 liters of water. In summer, you need more water. So you need at least 50 ml per kg of your weight, which works out to about 3.5 liters. 50 into 70, that is 3,500, which is about 3.5 liters. Now, this is assuming that you're not doing anything vigorous. That is, if you're going for some kind of aerobics or some kind of exercise where you're sweating it out, then the water requirement may be a little higher. This is assuming that you're having a normal lifestyle. So this is the amount of water you need for normal lifestyle, between 30 ml to 50 ml per kg of your weight. So you can do the calculation. Your weight may increase or decrease by a few kgs. It doesn't matter so much. You don't have to be very accurate. The best judge is your own body. Your body will tell you if you need more water or the amount of water you consume is sufficient. How will you know that? Can you guess? The best way to test whether you have consumed enough water is to examine your urine. If your urine is whitish or light yellow, that means you have consumed enough water. If your urine is a little more darker in color, or if there is any burning sensation when you pass urine, that means you have definitely not consumed enough water. You have to consume water immediately. And one more very important point here is as you age, after 50, 60 years of age, the body's ability to recognize the need of water is reduced. That means, no, how do you know that you need water? No, when you need water, the body creates something, dryness of mouth, thirst, what we call as thirst. So as you age, the body is not able to create the thirst. So you are not able to recognize that you need water. So then you have to be a little more careful and drink water periodically, even if you're not thirsty. So you can do the calculation how much water you need. About half of it you need to consume early morning before your breakfast. then about half a liter before lunch, and another half a liter before dinner, and balance if anything is left in between whenever you're feeling thirsty. And if you're not thirsty, check your urine. If your urine is not white or waterish, that means you need to increase the consumption of water. So when you're thirsty, you drink sip water like drip irrigation. And in the morning, when you drink plenty of water, it is like flushing your system, no, like the flush system. So it will clean your whole uh, digestive system and your stomach, and it will prepare your digestive system for your next meal. Thereby, when you eat, no, when you drink plenty of water in the morning, it will flush the system, and whatever water is required will be absorbed by the body. And when you eat, it will release the amount of water into your stomach, so that the pH or the balance between the acid, the food, and the enzymes is better maintained. But if you start drinking water when you're eating, you may tend to dilute those enzymes, and you may hinder the process of digestion. So it is better to avoid drinking when you're eating food, unless you're eating something like bread. So you need to wash it down because it is so dry that no, you cannot swallow it. So if something like that you're eating, then you may need to drink some amount of water. But otherwise, the traditional Indian food with no, rice, sambar, rasam, curd, you definitely don't need any kind of no, assistance in swallowing that food. If you're eating roti, um, again, if you're eating it dal, you should not have problem. And again, if you're following my instructions by making sure that you're chewing your food, again, there will be plenty of saliva and water mixed in the food, so you will not have any problem in swallowing the food. So you make sure that you drink enough water about half an hour before your meals. That will make sure that whatever is the requirement in your stomach, that is taken care of. Now, uh, I have already spoken about dry fruits. So why are we coming about dry fruits here? Many times what happens is, although you intend to eat in the correct time, no, ideally you need to eat around sunrise. Your breakfast should be around sunrise, maybe half an hour before or maybe 1 hour later. So between 6 o'clock is the sunrise, so between 5:30 to 7 is the ideal time to have your breakfast, and definitely not after 8. You should finish your breakfast before 8 o'clock, ideally. Similarly, noon is the best time for your lunch, no, around 12. Uh, Due to modern lifestyles, we may have difficulty in eating at 12, so you can stretch it between 12 to 1 or maybe 1:30 at the most. That is the best time to eat your lunch. And similarly, your dinner should be consumed before sunset. Before sundown, you should finish your dinner. That is the ideal time for eating your dinner. And after that, if you're still working, if you're still awake, if you're doing various things, and if you feel hungry, you can have a little bit of snack. And what snacks you can have, I'll talk about it later. But ideally, you should have your breakfast in the morning around around sunrise time, between say 5:30 to 7:30 at the most. Definitely before 8 o'clock. Your lunch should be afternoon, around noon, between 12 to say 1:30. That is the best time. And your dinner should be before sunset, before 6 o'clock. Now, this is how people were having their food in India before. And a lot of foreigners who came to India, they learned this and they are following it. In Europe, they finish their dinner no, much earlier. And unfortunately, we have kind of exchanged our habits. Now, Europeans are having their dinner early, and we are having our dinner very late, sometimes 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And some people even go on and have their dinner at, say, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the night. that is definitely not advisable. You should have food at the right time. No, if it becomes very late, it is better to skip your meal than have a meal with at a very later time. So what you do if you have to skip your meal, you'll be hungry. So, and it's already late and you're hungry. So what you can do is you can have some amount of dry fruits to make sure that your stomach doesn't become fully empty at that time. So it makes sense to carry some of the dry fruits with you. And if you are unable to eat your meal at the right time, you can have this dry fruit, because a fistful of dry fruit contains enough nutrition, uh, to be equivalent to a full meals. So you can get all the nutrition that you need um, from a fistful of dry fruits. Unfortunately, it may not be enough to fill your stomach, so you can have some more fruits to fill your stomach. But don't worry too much about filling your stomach. That is not so important. Um, that brings to the question of how much food to eat. What is the size of our stomach? Can you guess what is the size of your stomach? They say, um, if you put two fistful, that is the size of the stomach. And how much food should you eat? Ideally, you should eat only half of it, not more than half. So that means you take your measure, your fistful. The measure should be your body and not somebody else's fist. So your fist you take, and that much is the food that is required by you. So that means most of the time we are overeating. And if you're overeating, you should either put on a lot of weight, or it means that your body is unable to absorb or assimilate all the energy from that food. Why is that happening? Because of the wrong food habits. If you're not chewing your food properly, if you're not drinking sufficient water, the food does not get digested, and you end up eating more food. And which part of the food, no, even though you eat in a full meals, what is getting absorbed or what is getting assimilated into your body, you don't know. So, to make sure that the right kind of nutrients are getting assimilated into your body, you should eat slowly. You should eat, no, you should give enough time for yourself to eat. You should drink enough water before your meal. You should chew your food well, and no, make sure that you're not in a hurry when you're eating. And if you're missing your meal, you can have some amount of dry fruits and other fruits. Similarly, suppose in the evening or sometime you feel like snacking, the best snack is fruits or a bowl of fruit or a fruit salad. No, you can have different combinations of fruit salads. Or if you don't have a salad, you can just have whatever seasonal fruits available. Uh, Best thing is to eat the seasonal fruits. Whatever is available in that season, that is the best fruit for that season. Like apple is the best fruit in the winter. Watermelon is best consumed during the summer. Like that, whichever fruit is available in that season, you should consume it. So, along with fruit, you can also have vegetable salads. It depends on your taste. And if you find it too bland, if you're not able to, uh, uh, no, if you don't like the taste of these fruits and vegetables, you can always add a little bit of pinch of salt. You can add some jeera powder, or you can add some chaat masala. You can do a little bit of seasoning to make it more tasty or more palatable. But no, instead of eating some junk food, if you eat vegetable salads or fruits for your snacks, that is much healthier and much better way of eating than going in for junk food uh, too many times. Once in a while, it doesn't matter. We should not be too strict, because we are not perfect. If you try to be too perfect, uh, the body may revolt, and it may force you to, uh, I'm sure many of you would have tried dieting. So you diet and you control yourself. You don't eat food, you eat very less, and you eat only one kind of food. And once you finish your diet and you come back to your normal diet, there is a tendency to overeat, and you see within no time you put on not only the weight that you lost, you put on more weight than what you had earlier. So you should not push yourself too much. These habits you should cultivate slowly over a period of time, and it should become a habit and not a kind of diet. These habits should not be like a temporary thing to lose weight. This is the habit you should cultivate for your lifetime, because yoga is a way of living. It's a lifestyle. So all these things that I'm talking about here should become part of your lifestyle and not for a temporary phase. So you can have different kind of mix and match to make it more palatable and tasty. So I would like to throw the floor open for question and answers. Uh, Mr. Prashad, if you have any questions. Mr. Prashad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I
So
think Dr. Suresh Guruji, it was a wonderful presentation. I think at the beginning of this same series, I was thinking what we can conduct in 3 sessions. What is there so much to cover? But now after hearing the 3 sessions, I think we have covered only a very small area of the of our food habits, and how important is each area. Even for example, the way we eat, the importance of the water to our body. Everything has so beautifully been explained by you. I'm really impressed, and I think there is a lot of value in whatever you have spoken in the last 3 sessions. I think our audience are very happy, which I could make out from the last 2 sessions, the way they responded, the way they put questions, and everything. And today also, I think we will be having some questions. Now, there is one question. I will straight away go to the question and answer session. Now, the questions are put by the members from the audience, and Dr. Suresh Guruji will answer those queries. Now, the first question I have is, nowadays, cancer, one of the dreaded diseases, is the dreaded disease. Is there anything to control this cancer through food? This is the first question I'm having.
okay. Um, Now, when it comes to cancer, what I would say is um, one of the main reason for cancer is the kind of food that we eat. The food that we consume, there's a tendency to have a lot of junk food, a lot of food which has carcinogens. Sometimes we have food which is packed in plastics, and then the food which is very hot and it is packed in plastics, it is not a very healthy thing. So if you avoid all those things, that itself will be very good. If you have sattvic food, that is good, but the minimum you can do is to avoid plastics in your food. How do you avoid plastics? You should not carry your food or water in plastic bottles unless those plastic bottles are calibrated for food grade. No, if you see the bottles, uh, the so-called mineral water bottles, it will have a date of expiry. Now, date of expiry is not for the water. The date of expiry in this bottle is for the bottle itself. That means if you consume the water in that bottle after that date, the carcinogens in the plastic may get into the bottle and it can affect your health. So it is very important to see how you drink this water from the bottle. You should avoid that. Some kind of cooking, like cooking food over open fire, especially non-vegetarian food, can also cause cancer. There are various research being done. So some of this habit can cause cancer more than what you eat, like no, not eating food at regular time. That can be a very important cause of cancer. which can be very easily managed. No, make sure that you drink enough water and you carry some dry fruits or some fruits. Don't keep your stomach empty beyond certain time. You have your meal at the regular time, and make sure that you consume enough fruits and fresh vegetables. That should help you in controlling cancer.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Suresh Guruji. So Mr. Subramanian must have been definitely cleared of his doubts. As you told, I think one of the reason what you told was carrying food in most of these plastic containers, plastic bottles, and all these things. Also, one of the reason for cancer. Actually, this plastic usage has been increasing nowadays, and if you see at the Western societies, the amount of plastics they use in a day, I think it's huge or humongous. That is the amount of plastic they have been carrying. That's why there are more instances of there could be more instances of cancer in the Western societies because of that. That could be one of the reasons. You have given a very good reason for the occurrence of this cancer. You also told about keeping stomach empty for a long time and the other reasons what you have given actually. Okay, so thank you very much. And I have one query to you. Now the food what we eat in the especially in the night, that is for the dinner, will that food have a impact on the quality of the sleep what we have, or
Yes.
maybe yeah, the quality of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sleep?
Complete your question.
Yeah, because sometimes we get up in the midnight at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. We don't get sound sleep for no reasons actually. So, will the quality of the type of food what we have will it create an impact on the sleep what we get? This is my question to you.
Okay. You asked about what food, but I would say not only what food, what you eat affects your sleep, and apart from that, how you eat and when you eat also makes a lot of difference. If you eat food very late, or if you eat food very fast, if you don't chew your food properly, all those things can also have a very profound effect on your sleep. Apart from no, what food you eat, that's why I said you should eat your cooked food before sunset, no, as early as possible, so that there is enough time for you to digest that cooked food. And later in the evening or later in the night, if you have to eat something, have uncooked food like fruits, etc., which will not have that kind of impact on your sleep. Or no, if you notice, suppose you have gone for a party where you have consumed, some people consume alcohol or non-veg, etc., and you come back and you try to sleep, the possibility of you to have a restless sleep is much higher that time. No, when you consume non-vegetarian food or curries, etc., or if you eat very late, the possibility of having a restless sleep is very high. You could have indigestion, you could have acidity, no, regurgitation of acid, gas, etc., and your sleep can be affected by that. But at the same time, if you have sattvic food, if you have plenty of fruits, no, if you're having some non-veg, you have it little early. Maybe you have a little bit of buttermilk, which will help to digest that, and make sure that your food is getting digested a little earlier, so that when you go to bed, your stomach is not filled with uh, no, the food, the what do you say, um, the curry kind of food.
Okay. But does it mean that we should avoid Rajaswik food for the night dinner?
As far as possible, you should avoid rajasic food in your dinner, especially if you're having it little late. So if you're having it at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, if your dinner is at 6, then it will have minimum effect. But if you're having it at 10 o'clock, then definitely you should avoid rajasic food.
Okay, we have got the next question from Mr. Nagaraj Raj. So I think his question is: will cutting out rice from my diet help me lose my weight? Avoiding rice, will it reduce the weight? So this is a question what is having.
Okay, now this is an interesting question. Now, cutting down on your rice depends on how much rice you're eating. Now, many people ask about non-vegetarian food. So I'll give you an example. Um, Now, people who are fond of non-vegetarian food, when they are eating biryani, there is a tendency to have additional serving of biryani. Now, in India at least, when we eat non-vegetarian food, the amount of non-veg, no, the chicken or mutton piece that we consume may not be so much. When we are eating non-veg, the amount of rice we consume goes up. No, we consume a lot more rice when we are eating non-vegetarian food. In fact, not only non-vegetarian food, any of your favorite dish that you're eating, that time there is a tendency for you to overdo the rice. That is something that you need to avoid. Cutting down on the rice, it depends on how much rice you're consuming. I would say you'll have to calculate not only rice, no, all the cereals, rice, wheat, no, millets, etc. How much you're consuming. If you want to lose weight, you need to reduce all of them. You also need to reduce the amount of fat you consume, and you should increase the raw food, like vegetables and salads and fruits, to balance. Because if you suddenly, instead of having two servings of rice, you have only one serving, you may feel little hungry. So that doesn't serve the purpose. Then again, it can cause acidity. So what you do is you balance it with having little extra vegetables and fruits to make sure that your stomach is full. If you want to reduce the overall quantity of food that you consume, you should do it very, very slowly. No, you should suppose you're eating five idlis. Idli again is like rice. So if you want to reduce it, in the first month you no, you cut down from five, no, you come down to four, and you stay at four idlis for a month or two. Then from four you cut down to three, and you stay at no, three idlis for about 2 to 3 months. You bring it your the quantity of food you cut down very, very slowly. Don't try to cut down suddenly, and whatever you cut down, you substitute it with some fruits and vegetable salads, so that there is a balance. No, it's very important to maintain this balance. Only then you will be successful in losing weight. Otherwise, there is a tendency to develop some kind of cravings, and there is a possibility that you no, start binge eating. No, you may go into a diet and then suddenly you may start eating little more, or no, what they call as cheat diet or something. At that time, you eat so much that you more than compensate for whatever diet you had. So you have to be very careful there.
Okay.
Uh,
Subramanyam, Mr. Subramanyam, you have mentioned water. Okay, now there is one more question from Mr. Subramanyam. Now, what he is, I think you have mentioned about drinking of water is good for health. But what he is asking is, in many parts of Bangalore, sodium salt is mixed with water. Is it safe to drink? Means whatever
uh,
water you get in corporation, there is a mixed. I think they are mixed with sodium salt. Is it okay
I
or
don't
is it
think
safe?
anybody mixes sodium salt. I think he is talking about hard water. No,
Yeah.
salt water. No, what you get from
Maybe
borewell.
fluoride. I think chloride they are mixing. No? Chlorine for
Chlorine
the
they are mixing.
chlorine. I
They
think it
mix
must be
chlorine,
chlorine.
not sodium.
Yeah, it is
Um,
chlorine that they are mixing.
Chlorine is for removing all the what you say pathogens from the water. It
Yeah.
kills all the bacteria.
Okay.
That is what they use chlorine for. But if you are talking about salt, we are talking about hard water or the salt
Yeah.
water. No,
Yeah.
when you go, when you are getting your source of water is deep bore wells, the water tends to contain a lot of heavy metals and minerals. Um, According to WHO, water should contain about 100 parts of different minerals and salt. No, sometimes no, it can be between 100 to 150. Uh, Kaveri water can have about 200 or so, which is acceptable limit. Sometimes when you get water from bore wells, it can go to 350, 400, 500, even 1500.
Okay.
Now, that is when you need to filter it, remove the excess salt from water, because having those excess salt Sometimes those excess salt can be too much of iron, too much of no other heavy metals, which can be dangerous for our health. So we need to cut down on that. That's why we need to use filters. But then there is other extreme. We have this RO water, where we remove all the salt, and we have less than 10 parts per million of the salts and mineral in water, which is again not very good. Our body is not designed to drink pure water. No, we need to have some amount of salt in the water. So if you're using RO, you need to add a pinch of salt. Maybe take a bottle or maybe a jug of water. Add a small pinch of water, just a small pinch, few milligrams of salt. That will compensate, and that make sure that you are getting the right kind of water. If you're talking about too much of hard water, then this is my answer. If you're talking about adding chlorine by corporation, um, one way of getting rid of chlorine is to heat the water. If you boil the water, the excess chlorine evaporates and the water becomes more potable. That's one way of doing it. But if you are talking about hard water, too much of salt in the water, then boiling will actually increase the amount of salt. So you'll need to use filters, especially RO. But then again, RO can remove all the salt from it, which is again not good. You may need to add some amount of salt if you're using RO waters. I guess
Okay.
nowadays almost everybody is using RO,
Yeah.
reverse osmosis. So that is again not very good. By removing too much of salt from water, you're reducing your body's ability to absorb various vitamins and minerals, your body's ability to react with sunlight and create vitamin D. No, we call vitamin D is the sunlight vitamins.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the body's ability to create that vitamin reduces when we don't have enough salt in the water. So it has to be a balance. And you
Okay.
get this small meter. It's available in Amazon on many places where you can test to see what is the part per million in water. You can put that water in that. No, a few drops of water. It will tell you what is the reading. So you should make sure that it is closer to 100 rather than closer to zero.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Suresh ji. I think Mr. Subramanian, I think you're definitely cleared of it. Now we are getting, I think we are getting a lot of questions from the audience. I think we are running totally out of time. But anyway, I think we'll take one more question. There's a question from Mr. Lazar Surya, and his question is, what are some good sources of fiber in foods to help reduce cholesterol level? So he's asking for what is the fiber source in food which can reduce cholesterol level in the body, in the blood.
Uh, I'm not sure if fiber directly affects your cholesterol. Uh, so I will take it as two part. What is good source of fiber in our diet? Um, the whole grain, instead of having maida, you should have whole grain. That is no whole grain, but wheat you should consume. Um, uh, Best source of fiber is your fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. That will give you enough fiber. Um, But to reduce cholesterol, there are certain categories of food. I was telling Mr. Prashad that no, we will have one session dedicated to different diseases and
Okay.
what food we should eat. So maybe we'll go into more details there. But
Yeah, that's
as
nice.
you asked this question now, I'll quickly answer this. There are certain food like gourds, no different gourds, ash gourd, bottle gourd, etc., which can help in reducing cholesterol level. Even watermelon is very good. But what you need to do is the watermelon, you have the red part right in the middle. What you need to consume is the whiter part, the side of the watermelon, no, which is lighter in shade, the light pink, white, or even the green part. That if you consume, that is very good to control your cholesterol along with ashgard.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think are we through with the questions? Oh, this. Okay, there's one more question from Mr. Naresh Shahani. Please suggest a veg diet plan for seniors. He wants a veg diet plan for seniors. Is it a very big question? I think difficult to answer in a short time.
Like I said, we'll be taking these diet plans, etc., in a separate session. But as you
Okay.
asked it quickly, let me try to answer you. What I would suggest is have biggest meal for breakfast, have little smaller meal for lunch, and for your dinner you avoid cooked food and have as far as possible have only fruits and vegetables. Maybe you can include some amount of curd and dry fruits for your dinner, and try to have food which does not include cooking for your dinner. That will be an ideal diet plan, not only for seniors, for everybody across.
Okay, doctor. One query I have: when you told that use curds in the dinner, people also tell by using curds in the dinner, you will get cold and cough and phlegm formation in the throat. Is it correct?
Uh, it is not entirely true. There are certain kind of food which can cause cough, cold, etc. Like no, like eating grapes. Some people get affected by eating bananas. Like you said, some people avoid curds and buttermilk.
Okay.
Now, if you're habituated to eating these on a regular basis, then it will not affect you.
Okay.
The people who are getting affected are the ones who eat once in a while.
Okay.
No, if you're not eating regularly and no, after many months suddenly you eat curd, especially in the night, sometimes it can affect you.
Okay, Dr. Suresh Guruji, I think we have run out of time and there is a limitation of time. So we'll have to close the session in a short time now. So I think I was how to increase weight. I think we'll come to these questions next time. I think there's a slew of questions coming afterwards. How to increase my height. So I will put it later on. So I think today we will conclude the session and I will be requesting or Mr. Mulander Jain to come on stage, do a summation of today's program, give his comments, and give the vote of thanks. Please join us, Mr. Mulender Bengani. Mr.
Thank you,
Mulender.
Prashant. Thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you, Guruji. You have expressed in such simple words, even a layman can understand what we should do and what we shouldn't. I like that punchline. Eat, drink your food,
Ah,
and chew your liquids.
liquid.
That is the
Beautiful.
punchline. And I
Drink your
got
solids and eat your liquids.
Yeah.
You've muted yourself.
Mulender muted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So for me, that is the punchline, and I get confused so often. What should chew and what we should drink? So now it is totally, reverse. We should
Drink your solid food.
drink our solids, and chew our liquids.
Correct.
Correct. So anyway, it was a very nice session, and in so simple terms, you have make everybody understood. Whoever here joined today's webinar, I'm sure they will be agreeing what I am telling. They have he has touched upon uh, so many habits, or you can say myths, which we know, which we don't know, and we are carrying that myth throughout our life. That is simplified here. I thank Guruji once again. Even people who have joined today in this webinar, I thank you very much and request them to join Rata, become a member, get more and more information about the HVAC industry, HVAC and R industry, as well as so many topics which are around us and which are not touched upon, good for our health. So here, by not taking much of time today, it's already again we have one meeting lined up. I'll not take much of time. It's already we have crossed that time limit.
Yes.
So thank you very much, everyone. And I thank you, Prashad, for conducting this wonderful program.
Thank you.
Thank,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
everybody. Thank you. Yes. Okay.